If you're offended, well, we do not apologise. If you can look at this with an open mind and not take life too seriously, then you may just come away well and truly entertained.
Never fear, Shumbega's here, and our day's guest is Scott Taylor, an author, storyteller from Caithness.
This is Caithness Podcast, and we're here with Scott Taylor. Scott Taylor, what is it? Well, I'll tell you how I found Scott Taylor in a wee while. But I really love your name. It reminds me of like a football casual make. You know, like just
nice
Scott Taylor jacket. You know,
hold on. You're saying that my name reminds you of a football casual? That's a bit worrying, Sean. Come on.
Well, no, I've
been told many things.
Make,
over the years, I've been told that I've got a face like a Crime Watch E-fit. You know, I look like an inbred Yeti. It's been shaved, but never yet have someone said, "Oh, your name reminds me of a football casual." That's one for the books.
It's like you hear that name, you're like, "Aye, man, this guy probably means business."
You hear that name and go, "I bet that's a handsome chap right there." You know, that Scott Taylor's a name that sticks in your head.
But what is it like? What is it? Only found out your offer. Like I thought you wrote a book years ago, and then you came out with a new book called Rust. Means what's Rust all about?
Well, so I did write a book years ago as well too. I don't know if you've maybe heard, but I spent about, concerning the first book, I spent about 28 plus years working in security and security management, and bouncing. Basically, I was standing in doorways getting spat at and called a big fat Scottish sausage. And but back then there was a lot of books in the market that were aimed at the doorman stories, but they were all like how hard they are and how tough they are, and all these generic kind of like, I've had this fight and that fight, and they just get boring after a while. Don't get me wrong, it's interesting to read, and there's some great books out there. If you do look for any kind of door related books, I can recommend a guy called Robin Barrett. His book's really good, Doing the Doors. There's Jeff, I forget his surname, but the book's called Watch My Back. These are really good books, but they're not just about fighting. They're about some of the stories behind and the other kind of the ways their mental health played out. But my stories were more kind of humor based, because over all those years there was so many things that happened that were just ridiculous that I thought, well, rather than tell these kind of fight tales, write them down as the funny stories, things that people may relate to. There's stories about ex-girlfriends kicking through doors and stuff, and people covered in jobbies and that kind of thing, that things I thought were quite funny over the time. So I wrote that book it would be about maybe 15 years ago now. I wrote that book and released it on Kindle, still available now, called Knuckle Dragger. And that was my first kind of foray into writing a book or putting a book together. And reading it back now, there's a lot of things I would change, or a lot of things I would edit and change out. But over the years, I've still kept up with kind of blogging and little writing work here and there. And, and then I came up with the idea of trying to write a fictional based story. And it's, obviously, you've seen the book, The Rust is called. It's available on Amazon, paperback or Kindle. Rust, Harvest of the Hidden, it's called. And it's based primarily in Thurso. I'm a Thurso boy, born and bred, or inbred, depending who you speak to. And, I grew up there. I moved away from Thurso when I was 17 to find work, because, as you know yourself, Caithness can be a bit of a limited market when it comes to, good work, essentially. So I moved down to Aberdeen, and I was there for 20 plus years. Now I'm now living in the Aberdeenshire. I'm now in Old Meldrum, and but my heart's always still in Thurso. I'm still a Thurso boy. So the story's a lot of based on what I remember from Thurso. The scenarios that are in the book are based in Thurso. Obviously, you're visiting other parts of the county as well too, but primarily it's Thurso based. And it's a fictional. It's like a fantasy fiction comedy style book. And I just wanted to for me, there's no kind of funnier place. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but there's no better sense of humor or funnier place than the far north of Scotland, because you'll probably agree yourself, Sean, up there, people are far more like I find the best humor are people who can make fun of themselves. You know, there are too many people who are worried about what others think of them, or people who worry about, you know, their perception in public. And my feeling was the best humor comes from making a fool of yourself. You know, like I've spent years now podcasting, making a fool of myself and getting ripped apart by other folk and whatnot. But that's part of the fun. And I think you get more respect from people if you are self-deferential, if you make fun of yourself and kind of not take yourself too seriously. And that's part of what Rust was.
Sorry, man. I'm listening now. I was just, no, Rust, like I told, what is it, man? It's like a book. I really want to read it. I probably need it like on audio. I'm severely dyslexic. Means that's where like audio books for me is the best thing. Like, but when you're right with Caithness humor. Like I used to go up on holidays when I was younger. I moved away when I was like 8, but I used to always come back for a couple of years and then move back down the road. And I used to find what is it, Caithness humor just funny. It's like going back 20 years in time. Like it's like it was no filter. They say it as it is, and you're just like, oh man, that's you would never get off with saying that down the road. But, oh, for fuck's sake. It's because you switched off and then they came back up.
No worries. Well, start again. Keep going. So,
oh my god, I'm sorry.
So going back to you were speaking before about the bouncing,
right? we leave it at the end. Sorry,
right? Okay. So just to clarify for your listeners here, we had a bit of a faux pas with the recording, and things went south, and we've gone back again. We've spoken for about 20 minutes now until we realised we weren't recording the video. So that's fine. It's fine. But yeah, so we're talking about obviously the accent and the Caithness accent and how mine's a bit more diluted. I was saying there about how you know, I was out one night in Aberdeen about 10 years ago. And, you know, again, like you said, you're amazed how many people you meet down south from Caithness. And I was in a place called Archibald Simpson's, one of these Weatherspoons kind of chain bars, and sitting down speaking to some friends, and there was a couple, like an older couple to my left hand side, who turned to me and said, "Excuse me, couldn't help but hear you speaking there. Are you from Caithness by any chance?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Thurso," and they explained, you know, how my grandparents on my father's side were from Westerdale. My dad was from there too, of course. My mother was more kind of like a Thurso and kind of Betty Hill kind of area. My grandparents were from there. And he said, "Oh," he says, "by any chance, are you Don Taylor's son?" And I'm like, I am, yes. Turns out this guy who was sitting at the table beside me was like best friends with my father when they were younger, had clicked, I don't know how he clicked my voice, but he clicked, but how he clicked the connection between me and my father, because I look nothing like my father. My father looks like a regular human. I look like some kind of like reject from Dunray, you know? So yeah, it's amazing the amount of people you'll meet when you're out and about as a Caithness chap.
I think it's mental how people could go, "Oh, I know your granny, such and such. We went married, such and such," and they go all your whole history, and they could do that with everybody. I'm like, I'm not glued up and like, you know, like families and all the rest of it, but they know
amazing.
All your gossip and everything.
But the thing is, though, is bear in mind, you know, for us, we're distracted by, you know, TikToks and Instagram and Facebook and social media and Twitter, and we've got constant folks on our phones. And whereas back then, all they had was like drinking and masturbation, you know. So the only thing you could do was go out and see your friends and your neighbors or and gossip. Gossip up there was rife, you know. I mean, you could, if you're in Thurso and you fart in High Ormley, Spring Park thinks you shot yourself within 10 minutes, you know. The word just spreads like wildfire, you see. So. And that as well was part of the reason why I left Thurso, was because it was just a very gossipy, kind of small, kind of like nick kind of thing, you know. But
I'd say only bit I don't like about up here is everybody knows your business, and if you don't, they make it up, or I don't know. You could be a person, you could like high school, you know. Everybody grows up, but they still mind you from high school, and they still think you're that guy, and you're like, that's like 20 over nearly 30 years ago, and you're still speaking about shit like that.
Do you find yourself though, Sean, like especially up there as well too? Is you know, as much as you try, like myself, you know, you try and keep yourself to yourself and keep your business to yourself. The minute there's like a town-wide scandal, you're all over it. You're like, oh, who's involved? What's happened? What's going on here? Like, there's been a couple of scandals in recent years up there that I won't mention because of legal proceedings.
I know the one you're on about.
You know the ones I mean now. Yeah. A couple of scandals that went like almost like nationwide.
It was viral. Like it was like, did you hear about this? And then somebody sent me a voicemail, and it was hilarious. And I said, oh,
hilarious,
so funny, man. Like I was in tears. But But like, the thing is, you can't post it anywhere because it's
Exactly. You know, like I was going to use the audio from that voicemail because it was one of the best voice clips I've heard in my life. I was going to use the audio on the podcast, but I'm like, I can't do that because I'll probably get Marskewed. But geez,
like
absolutely brutal. But yeah, so I mean, you do try and keep yourself to yourself.
Words what Caithness people use, and I was like, oh man, that's only Caithness people use 8 words.
Exactly. There was no way you could get away from that, you know.
So, yeah, but as, like, and then somebody went and told me, no, that was all this arms and legs in that story, and like, surely no, that was
surely not. There had to be some meat on those bones. My goodness, bones being the operative word. So yeah. So I mean, as much as I try and like, I've been away for so long now from Caithness and doing other things. I think Caithness is still like one of the dominant factors about my kind of life, or one of the things that inspire me the most. And that's why with Rust, it was very much based on Caithness and very much based in Thursday, and the humor there and the kind of personality there as well too, and a lot of the kind of like folklore and stuff. It's all part of the book too. But yeah, so it's still in the blood. I still miss the place greatly.
It's good, man, because like I think like Rust, like what you're saying before I found out I wasn't recording, is what is it? Caithness humor is amazing, eh? Like I think as well, like this, it's like going back 20 years ago. Like there's no filter, there's no like political correctness, but there's no venom in it. It's just like a big. We're all taking
exactly, exactly.
Like,
because that's a problem we have. Like, well, the problem I found in Aberdeen was people, as much as they say they're up for a laugh, there wasn't very much in the way of people could give it, but they couldn't take it as such. And that was one of the big problems I had was if you can throw insults at people or wind up your friends or say things like, I mean, to my friends, I'm the most horrible person they know. Like but likewise to me, for example, to give you an example how bad they are, it was less than a week after, like, a short few years ago, my mother passed away. And within hours, I was getting jokes, dead mum jokes sent to me by friends of mine. But I mean, they were hilarious. Maybe a bit ill-timed, but hilarious. But that's the kind of humor you have, is you'll just fire back in, because my firm belief is that if you have friends, you only know you've got a true friend if they rip you apart, even during their darkest times. And that's when you got a true buddy there. If I meet you as a friend and I'm nothing but civil to you, then you know that I'm not really connected with you properly.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think even with humor, like I said this years ago, like it comes from dark times, and I think I mind one of my mates, his mum passed away, and it sounds really horrible. Like, he was fucking hilarious that night, but I think that was his coping strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was there and we're drinking, and it was a good night, even the circumstances was horrible.
Yeah, because your friend knew that you guys were there to back him up, or support him, but also, that humor helps you get through a lot. Like I also, so give me an example. I also am an on-call firefighter. I'm trained as a firefighter down here in my community. We are trained to the same level as the whole time guys, but we work by a pager. So if this thing vibrates, I have to run off. Not now that I'm booked off, thankfully, for this show, but normally if away you go and you're away the fire engine. And over the years, I've done it for about 6.5, nearly 7 years, and it's you do see some horrible things and you do see some bad things. But to give you an example, the humor, like the police, the ambulance, and the fire service and the emergency services, the humor used behind closed doors, or not doors are shut and you're on that pump or engine or police car, is quite dark, right? Because it's a way of coping with things. And the same with like bereavement and families. When you lose somebody, the dark humor helps you support you through some really bad things. Like, you see some horrible things, but you make light of things to try to get through it. So I've seen a lot of vilification online about like there was like WhatsApp groups down south in England of like firefighters or police officers, especially, making jokes about certain things. And you're like, yeah, they shouldn't be doing that over WhatsApp. But there's things said person to person behind closed doors that helps you kind of cope with the trauma that's maybe darker than it should be, but it's a coping mechanism basically. It helps you get through these bad things.
No, like I was going to say it, because like I knew my mum, she worked in the mental health hospital, and she goes, if you heard what people are saying behind, but they weren't slagging the people. There's it's their way to coping, because like there's
exactly
people self-harm or you know, and it's just, you know it yourself of being a firefighter, like
Yeah.
you've seen horrific stuff, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, it's outweighed as well. You see some horrible things, but you see some good things as well too. Like, say for example, we cut somebody out of a car who's been trapped, and we get them home to their family. They go and see their wife and kids, or their husband and father, mother, whoever it might be. It's that you know that you've helped them get home to their family, and that makes things better. So all that bad stuff you see over here is outweighed by the good stuff you see over here. So it balances out a fair bit. So just you've got to have a thick skin, and you've got to be able to have a bit of a dark humor, which I think being a Caithnessian is probably stands me in good stead.
But you're right. You're right with like people down south. Like slagging's not the same. Like you went up there and you had to have thick skin. I used to go up on holidays and you got slagged rotten. Like like me being dyslexic, I got slagged for that. But like I never took it as venom. As long as something a bit more than just using certain words. Like if it was a bit more creative, I was all right. And I mind my mate getting slagged because he never knew his dad, and you're like, fucking hell. But other people would go, that's really brittle. But like he's took it as a laugh. It was like or something.
Like I used to have a really bad stutter in my youth, in my teenage days, especially in my early kind of 20s. Quite a bad stutter and stammer, which still shows face occasionally. If I'm excited or I'm nervous or I'm drunk, basically, I'll stutter like crazy. But one of the best therapies for me for doing that was being outspoken, like the podcasting, for example. I've run the DHB radio show now for about 15 years. We've got a new show now called the Legion of Extraordinary Miscreants. And it's being that kind of like getting used to, like you are now with this podcast. It's like you get used to speaking to a camera, speaking to an audience, to a crowd, and you learn how to vocalize things and how to pace yourself and try not to speak too fast. And it's helped me kind of like work on controlling that stutter and controlling my speech, basically, and give me more confidence, because having that having that speech impediment or dyslexia, it brings you in a bit into a shell, and you need to find things to get out of that shell and express yourself. And here you are, you're filmmaking, you're podcasting. It's these things that are bringing you or giving you an expressive output that helps you get past these kind of barriers. It's.
I don't know if it's like word generation. Is it like you see, like it's nothing against like younger people now, but like this whole safe
shit.
Yeah,
they're absolutely they're shit. A lot of them.
Fair enough, man.
Bastards.
Fucking being younger
with their fucking hair and their good looks. Fuck them. Sick of them all. Bastards.
But no, it's like they're a safe space. But in like I like it was stuff like I hate it, and I have to push myself out as till going. And then I think a lot of people are like, no, I'd rather sit in my house and speak through text or something. It's like
yeah, exactly. So have you found? I mean, let me interview you for a second here and ask, like, have you found? Like starting a podcast, right? So, I mean, even for myself down here, started the podcast. When I started the DHB back in the day, there wasn't very much in the way of podcasts in the market, and certainly not like the DHB was. The DHB back then was far more raw and self-deprecating and insulting each other, and like kind of brutal at times as well too, which wasn't a thing back then for podcasts, and it became quite popular because of that. But you had to put your neck in the line a little bit with these things, and you have to open yourself up to criticism, of course, or like you said, the kind of naysayers, like people like, oh, check this boy here thinking he's Billy Big Bullets. Yeah. So are you finding yourself like creating this new show in Caithness, which is quite a very small dirge of podcasts, which is strange because of how creative the community is. You're pushing forward this podcast based in Caithness. Have you found yourself under kind of microscope, under folk or like small talk or nitpicking, or folk, oh, check this boy putting himself forward? Because you'll find as well probably is you'll even maybe struggle getting guests because like, oh, I don't want to be seen on camera. People might talk about me and stuff, and it's hard to get people to get past that kind of like, don't worry about what people think of you, just fucking do it.
I think it's because we moved away, and I think it's a bit when you come back, and then I'm like, all right, I thought I need to do something. It means I thought, well, I'm going to make this podcast, and it was all to do with like creative people. I thought, and it's a platform for them to come on, chat about like if they're writing a book or whatever, or But I honestly, I've contacted so many people, and I feel like I'm annoying people now because they're like, they either didn't show up on the day, they get cold feet, or they're like worried about what their neighbors are going to say or what their friends are going to say, or like
exactly.
It's like, like it's ones where like I've done a podcast and like my head went to shit, you know, some days, and I can't think words in there, and I can't get a word out in
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like, oh no!
And the worst thing is you'll prepare and you'll sit there and you'll write down notes and you'll take things, suggestions of stories you can talk about and stuff. And then when it comes to that on air button, you're like, oh no, your brain just brain farts away. So yeah, it happens. Absolutely.
Well, I was just like, yeah, like I had a stutter years ago, and it was weird. Like now it doesn't really. It comes back as far as like I get brain farts. I'll be like speaking, and I can see a word in my mind, but I can't get it. And I'm like, and then I'm like, I look like I'm half baked. I don't know. I can't get it words. You know?
Yeah. Do you find like I found that I had certain keywords I had to avoid because if I said those words, I couldn't get past or I would jam on it. Like for example, that's a good one. Like I quite fancy, and I'll say it quite slowly, a smoked sausage supper. Right? When you go to the chipper, I couldn't ask for it because if I tried saying smoked sausage supper, it'd be like, "Can I get a smoked sausage supper?" Like, fucking what? Sorry, you want a shoe and a hat? No, a smoked sausage supper. And I'm like, what? A sausage chip, a hat? What were you on about? So there's certain things, certain trigger words I couldn't get out. Like even when I was bouncing back in the day, you would tell folk for some reason I couldn't say like no trainers. If I borrowed a policy of no sports shoes, you say no trainers. I couldn't say trainers. I had to say sports shoes. You know, no sports shoes. Sorry, no can do. So yeah, you'd find workarounds to kind of get past it, but man, it wasn't very easy at all.
It's weird because I think like with dyslexia, like people just think it's you're reading and writing, and like mine's just bad. Like I try my best to read and write, but it branches off into like other things. And it's like I got mates who got ADHD and that, and I'm like I'm like I do that stuff. And there's people who's got autism, and I was like I think we all play in the same park, but in different games. Yeah, means there's a lot
different
of
games. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm like I used to hate, like, you know, we go back to be like bouncing, and you had like small man syndrome where the guy be a mouthpiece, and I was never a mouthpiece because like I felt like I couldn't get words out what I say in time.
Did you do the thing where you'd get into a slag and match somebody, and then you'd like and you walk away because you couldn't say a word, and you'd go home then and go, I wish I'd said this. Jesus, that was great, you know, but whoa, can I phone the guy? You know, fucking yeah, totally being there as well too. Like that's the thing as well. Like with the DHB, for example, my co-host Lurch, he's quick. Like he'll cut you down in a heartbeat. I'm not quite as quick when it comes to the comebacks. So I'm sitting there going, just like calling a loop while he's ripping me apart. And I mean, I get him a zinger here and there, but nowhere near as much as he gets me. So yeah, that's also a kind of problem I have too. Yeah,
well, it's funny because I would never have thought you had that problem. Like I watched a lot of your podcasts years ago and like different stuff you've done over the years. And, like definitely books. I think you'd be like amazing writer because you're probably picking up on like all these little like Caithness dialect. It was amazing because I was like, you're the only person I know who's done it like in a funny style. It's probably yeah. Like,
well, I mean, that was it. There was videos I made a while back that went kind of viral. There was like the 50 Shades of Caithness, which went huge.
'Twas a night afore Christmas, and all through a toon all the drunks were just merry, except for one loon. He'd been kicked out of Top Joe's for being a root. Now dumped in his street was a full mackatoot. He staggered off slowly until a clear festive night, till a vision appeared that made him damn near drop shite. 'Twas a spirit of Christmas, a heavy-set ghosty with a massive black jacket and a bag like a postie. He floated a foot off the pavement for sure, a towering spirit who boomed, "Oh yeah, hooer. I've come a long way to visit you Bucktooth before Christmas Day. You've been a damned fool, loon, for that I am certain, so I've been sent here by St. Nick to gie you a sermon. Oh, please dinna kill me, as the Lord's my witness, my mither'll go mental and you'll be on her shit list." "I'm no here to kill you," said a big black-clad vision. "I've come here to help you. I'm a ghost on a mission. You're chasing young laskies and you've had a fair skinful, and that thing you do with your wank sock is sinful. You're disgusting and vile, lad, a right bloody stinker. And the state of your drawers, man, you look like a tinker. You've no Christmas spirit, lad. You've been a damned fool. And stop pissing at my Christmas tree, for God's sake, it's cruel. A big black-clad ghostie, he reached in his jacket and pulled out a spook pad, a fancy ghost tablet. I've got a big list here of all your hijinks that you've caused every Christmas while drinking with tinks. It says here that one year you knocked out a Santa and made off with his beard while he was choked with asthma. And it tells me you once made your mither near flip when she caught you Christmas Eve nicking lead out a tip. I mean, hell, Loon, it says here you nicked pies out of Johnson's. They were Christmas ones too, tell me, have you no conscience? For Bucktooth stood defiant, looking almost conceited. I'll tell you this, Ghostie, you seem a fine chappie, but what shite you have spouted, for sure I'm no happy. You're right, I'm a scoundrel, a right rotten bastard, and at times, yes, okay, I've done things while I'm plastered. Things I'm no proud of, things no very festive, in fact, what the hell, Loon, I've been outright offensive. I've courted a young lassies and messed them about, and too many times now they've given me a damned clout. I know there's been times when I should have known better, like feeding drams to the lasses just to make their drawers wetter. Now my error, you're no a bad soul, even though you are hammered and only out for your hole. So let's drink and be merry, let's go till I come, and fill ourselves with drams, but don't tell your mum. And with that young Bucktooth and a Ghostie they bonded, before heading till they come where a plan was concocted, that for every Christmas Eve they'd meet up and share stories of that whole year just past and all of its glories. And that, my dear friends, is a fine Caithness Christmas, full of dramming and whoring and a bunch of forgiveness. And if you don't like that, then take a sook of my cheer.
And there was videos called Bucktooth Mackatoot.
That's the one I watched the other day. That's so funny as fuck. Like
Bucktooth Mackatoot was entirely like just my own invention that happened to as well, and it was at the point where, like, there was one night, for example, I was visiting Thursday, visiting family, went to Scannandy's with a couple of friends, and this was about maybe kind of 7 or 8 years after Bucktooth Mackatoot came out. And I'm standing, ding-a-ling in hand, having a waz in the toilets in Scannandy's. And I was speaking to my friend beside me, who was also having a pish, and he wasn't there helping me, of course. He was having his own pish, but just watching me, like a hawk. Comparing cocks. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Look at the size of that. Is your head that shiny? So, so standing speaking away about cocks, as you do, and these two young lads were like, "Oh, I recognise your voice." I'm like, "Oh, are you Bucktooth Mackatoot?" I was like, "Yes." And I spent the next 20 minutes in this toilet reciting Bucktooth Mackatoot lines to this guy who was filling me with, "Oh, this is amazing." I'm like, that's really cool, but that was cool. Part of it was trying to make stories or videos or kind of funny things, but with a Caithness twang. You see, that was the thing, because there wasn't much in the way out there of Caithness kind of representation, accent-wise, certainly, but yeah, Bucktooth Mackatoot was a lot of fun. I wrote some more things that I never ever recorded, but there's more things out there. Like there's the Mackatoot Olympics I wrote as well too that I never released and stuff. But yeah, it was a good laugh.
would you ever go back to that? Because that was gold.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, for example, the 50 Shades of Caithness one was a lot of fun, but I didn't write that. It was written by somebody else. Who then once it went viral? I mean, it went quite big. It was in the press and everything. This one too, but sadly, the guy but perfectly reasonably said, "Look, I'm not happy with my work being used anymore. Could you take it down?" I was like, "Well, okay." So I had to delete it offline and couldn't. I think it's back online again, but somebody else posted it again. But I had to delete it personally, and that's why it inspired me then to write my own things with Bucktooth Mackatoot. And I don't know. I think it was getting good feedback, but I never really kind of kept it going because I was caught up with other things. I was busy with the podcast. I was busy with. At that point, I think I had 3 jobs. I was running 2 as well, back and forth. So finding time to sit down with and record, because I think you had to. I was recording the audio, then putting video clips over and stuff. But I think if I did Bucktooth Mackatoot again, I would need to probably just be to a camera thing like this, and then cut away, and would maybe easier. But I wouldn't say the idea is dead, but I think I would quite fancy doing more things. I did do like there was a Caithness Christmas Carol I did as well too, which was quite popular too. So yeah, there's a few things that
I thought honestly, I thought that was gold. Like I even the way you edit, because it was just like pictures flashing up the whole time.
that was
It was just one flash of pictures. Like, did I see it? And it was like a guy spreading his arse cheeks. Like I was
oh yes, yes.
I see it.
I got so many angry messages from like family members going, "What are you doing on the internet for that for?" It's like, well, that's who I am. Sorry.
But I love that as well, because it seemed like he's never cared. It's like, oh, you know what, this is funny. I'm gonna fucking have this picture up. You know, like I'd be worried just in case I get like, oh yeah, it's offending somebody. You know,
well, that's it. It goes back to the idea before we talked about people worry too much about how they're seen online, so they hold themselves back from expressing themselves, and that's where creativity dies. You know, if you can't be creative, if you're worried about what people will think of you, because it's gonna be contained in a little bubble, and you'll sit and it'll just stay away in your chest, but you'll never get it out, and then before you know it, it's too late, and the idea's gone, or somebody else is taking the idea and run with it. Just try new things. There's a lot of things I've done that I've tried that haven't worked. But you try it and see if it works, you know, give it a try, see what people think of it. I know if it doesn't work, then just go, well, that's not the one that works for me. I'll try something else, you know. But it's all about being creative and not. I say, you know, of course, you do care about what people think. You don't want to offend people. You don't want to upset people, but you also want to take risks as well too, you know, if you can. I'm a firm believer in that. I think it was Stephen Fry that said, like, you know, you have the absolute right to be offended by what I say, but that doesn't give you the right to dictate what I say. You know, that I can, you know, by all means, people are going to be offended by things I've said before in the podcast, and they have been. Like over the years, some of the hate mail I've had for doing the DHB has been tremendous, and we normally read them out and have a laugh about them on the show. But so people don't always like what you do. But my top tip for anyone being creative is like, say for example, you make a YouTube video like you have on yourself, Sean. You make a YouTube video, and you get like maybe 50 comments. There's going to be one shithead in there whose comment will stick in your head because it's a negative comment or it's a bad comment. Just ignore it. Like, well, just remember in your head, I'm not for everyone, right? There's people who'll watch this show here or hear this show here. They will think that man's voice is fucking annoying, but that's fine. That's cool. You know, I'm not everyone's bread and butter. I am some people's bread and butter, you know, but that's cool. You can't please everyone. And remember that, you know, you're going to get criticized no matter what you do, but just fucking do it. You know, there's so many people I know in Caithness and Thurso more so that because I'm from there, of course, that have got these amazing creative minds who've sat on their talent because they're like, well, you know, I don't think there's a market for it. And I don't think people will enjoy it. Listen, if you want to do YouTube, do YouTube. There's thousands of people that do it already, but maybe they don't do what you do or don't have your voice, you know, just fucking do it. I mean, here you are, for example, there's a deluge of podcasts out there. People always say, oh, well, everyone's got a podcast. Just do it. You might bring something new to the fold, you know, it's a whole, just get out there and do these things, express yourself, you know?
But even your podcast, your new one, I love the whole idea. You're in a caravan with your three mates in wrestling masks.
Pretty much drinking beer, wearing wrestling masks, and just speaking nonsense.
And that's what, like, with me, I was already tuned in. I was like, I like this. It's already looks different compared to other podcasts I've seen.
Yeah, you know, that was it. And the wrestling mask thing came around just because one of the guys who I do the show with, a guy called Tiny, he was at a local sports event in the village, and there was a wrestling group there that were competing, and they were selling masks. He was like, I'm going to buy 3 of these for a laugh. And we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And, you know, even though I'm an old man now, I'm like, I totally want a wrestling mask. I'm just, oh my God, give me the mask. So and then you put the mask on and it creates this whole new persona, you see. And it's like one of these things where I think it's the avatar effect where you have this mask or this shield or persona and you can be yourself. Like my wife argues the fact that there's 2 versions of me. There's the version of me that she sees every day and people see who I work with and stuff. And then there's the mask version of me who you're seeing now, or the internet sees, or the DHB sees, or Bucktooth Magatoot sees, or, you know, it's just that kind of, I'm louder and more expressive and I say rude words and, you know, and make fun of people. So yeah, it's.
Sorry, man, you're right, because I was saying this last week on the podcast. I think you need to wear a cape and like I think people didn't get it. It's like you got different characters for different
Exactly.
things.
Yes.
Like I like even like I'm going. I sound like a narcissist because I'm knocking on all these different doors and I want my stuff out here. But
Yeah.
you need to be like that. You know, you need to like post yourself about everywhere.
Exactly. You have to get yourself out there. And like you said, it's not about being narcissistic at all. You know, I mean, I quite enjoy it's about being creative. You know, it's about creating yourself either through audio format or video or through written word or whatever it might be, as you like, just being creative. You know, like I started a blog called Doghouse Dad, which is on Facebook, and it's got like 20,000 followers, and it is just me telling horrible stories, writing down stories about my wife, my kids, my life, you know, and I'm making little videos here and there. But again, it's just like, here's another kind of channel to express myself, you know, another thing to try. You know, not everything works. There's been other things I've done that haven't worked, like I said. But you try these things. If you don't try, you'll regret it at the end of the day. You know, it's like, you know, you'll get to 50, 60-year-old and go, damn it, I wish I tried that. You know, I wish I did this thing. You know,
it's funny because you're like all the stuff you say today is exactly the same as what like certain things I've been saying in different podcasts. It's like because like people who do come in and then they're like, oh, I wasn't going to come in, and they had the same thing because they're just totally worried this in case like they make a film themselves like ads or what's people going to think of me. And it's like after this podcast goes out, yeah, like I had a message yesterday saying, oh, I watched your podcast last week. It was quite poor. And I said, why do you need to message me at like fucking 12 o'clock at night to tell me it was shite? Yeah, like just keep it to yourself. You know?
Just keep that to yourself, exactly. You know, like, or you could just say, oh yeah, but it's not quite for me, but you know, it's great work. You know, it's like that's fine, but you know, I think it's pish. Okay. Well, that was good to hear at fucking midnight, you know.
I might say this message and ruin his sleep.
Exactly. Well, that's wrecked my wank. What the fuck? You know, or made it better. It depends on how you think about it, you know. But you know.
I was just ready to go to sleep, and I got a message. I was like, "What the fuck?" All right,
go to sleep. He says, "Okay." After you've had a wee hand shandy, huh? But no, you're right enough. Though it is just this. You know, you've got to ignore that kind of bullshit, you know, because no matter what you make, like here you are, you're taking that creative chance on this, you know, and you've done really well so far. I've enjoyed your shows up to this point. This one's going to be awful, but the ones before this have been good, you know. But it's good hearing like natural talk and just natural discussion and stuff. I appreciate that, you know. I like that. But you're always going to get someone going, oh, what a lot of shit that is, because Joe Rogan isn't better. They're like, yeah, Joe Rogan's got multi-million pound, you know, microphones and studios and top tier guests. You know, here we are in Caithness, for fuck's sake. You know, it's like, oh, God's sake, you're going to be beset by shit on all sides. But you know, who cares?
I tried not to take it to heart, but it was what is it, years ago? Well, was it? I was a couple of years ago. I was on a Daily Record. It popped up in the Daily Record. It was me, and it was like, and it because I couldn't read, I could only read snippets. And it kind of it was loads. It was like it put out on Saturday night. It means there was a lot of people who was pissed, and they just started going, "Oh fucking, I didn't like this guy," or the opposite. People loved it. It was like it was going back and forth. And I thought, I never took it as like going, this could be actually it's good publicity because it's like people are speaking about it. Either they love you, and I should have took it that way, but I was just seeing the negative and going, all right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're low self-esteem in yourself. You're like even at a time you go, yeah, he's right.
Exactly what you said there, and it is that case where you have to. I think as you grow creatively and you do it more and more and more, you start taking that kind of negativeness and you're like, well, who cares? And you can work past it, or you take it on board and you kind of work it into like I would take it on board. Like I loved getting at one point hate mail or like negative feedback because we'd then read it out on the show, on the podcast, on the DHB, and we would just rip into them. Like I just like write a horrible reply back, you know, and read it out as well, doing stuff and use it as part of your kind of fuel to keep going. Because it was that case of like, you're going to get haters. There's probably people who I've had some negative reviews for Rust, you know, and I mean, mostly positive, but one or two negative ones. Like, that's cool. I don't mind. You know, fine. It's not for everybody. It's a genre that a lot of people don't really get into. It's cool. And you take it and go run on ahead with it. You know, it's fine. There's not going to appeal to everyone, but it might appeal to some. And that's all important, you know?
But it's funny, like I did a video a few years back, and it was due with Caithness, and then somebody went and put in a comment going, "Oh, you're speaking about like they got a bad drink culture." I said, "No, I was just speaking about pubs. You know, like they just got that something until be, and it's like, all right, whatever. You know?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, though. There's people out there who kind of thrive on negativity. People whose only kind of lifeblood is being negative and shooting other people down because they're so fucking miserable with their own lives. You know, like, oh well, if I'm shit, then everything's shit. Well, that's not how it works, pal. You know, some people are quite nice. You know, some people are quite good fun. You know, but yeah, no matter what and these people, no matter what you try and do or say to appease them, it'll never work because all they want to do is fucking piss and moan. You know, it's like, oh, well, do your thing. I don't care. Piss and moan all you want, you poisonous troll. You know, who cares?
I think some people it's jealous. They like probably see you doing well and go, how's he doing that? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, I mean, we had a thing where with the DHB with listeners who were saying, oh, but we wish we could do what you do. And I'm like, well, you can. You can buy a microphone or even a microphone on your webcam if need be, you know, use that and just record, just do your thing, get a couple of friends together. If need be, get one microphone you all speak into or whatever you do, use your phone if you have to, and just express yourself, just bring something to the market. And yes, it might not be the best initially. If I go back to my first episodes of my stuff, I'm like, holy shit, I sound terrible, or I can see where things are cringeworthy, but you get better as time goes by and you get more confident and you find more things to talk about or you find your niche, you know, but I mean, look at yourself, you're pushing yourself in different directions to try and find that niche, the thing that really hits home, you know, and you're willing to take chances, which is what's the important thing is, you know, take a chance.
It's even like I don't know, as bits you go, it's at the beginning it's going to be rough till you smooth a bit is it like
yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, how do you juggle that all in? I mean, you're saying you had 3 jobs, or you work like in 3 different jobs at different times.
Yeah.
Got a family and you're doing the creative stuff. And like,
true, yeah. I mean, for me, like, well, before when I started the DHB, I was a single man living in a small flat in Aberdeen. Right. And my flatmate was one of the guys in the show, and we would just get drunk all the time and podcast and just film nonsense and everything else as well too. But yeah, like you said, as time goes by, life gets a bit more complicated. So, you know, got married, we've got 2 young kids, we've bought a house in Aberdeenshire here in Meldrum. You know, I'm working 2 jobs currently as well too, you know, and you got activities with a family and kids, so it's hard to find time to be creative, you know, and to do things. For me, I think it was like there was, especially with the writing part of it as well, getting a chance to write would be like late in the evenings, or like the kids go to school and my wife's at work and I've got maybe a free day, I'll sit for a couple of hours and just pump out maybe a couple of chapters. And it takes longer to get things out there, writing wise especially. It takes much longer to get a thing out there than it did before. Like video wise, if you work on like an idea for a video, you know, and here I am sitting in my spare room, you can see all my washing hanging behind me on the walls and stuff behind me. This is a spare bedroom. I've got my monitor here. I've got a microphone, everything set up here. I had this before set up in the garage so that I could go out there late at night and just like speak nonsense and not disturb people. But then I was like, it's too cold for that bullshit. Let's move all back inside again. So like today, there's no one home apart from me, so I can sit and I can waffle pish and I can yap away, and it's fine. You do find time for things that you enjoy, you know. So if it's a half hour, if it's 15 minutes, or you got a spare kind of morning to yourself, then just work on the things you enjoy. You know, for me, it's be it writing or be it recording podcasts. Like with the Legion of Extraordinary Miscreants podcast, like we will meet up. So we release that show once every fortnight. So it means it gives us a 2-week window to record a show. So we can find an evening when we're all free, because Tiny and Boris, they also work different shifts or different schedules. Or Tiny travels a lot abroad with his work. Boris is a long distance driver, so he's away for a fair bit as well too. I'm working shift work. So it's getting that 2-week buffer. Give yourself time and give yourself a buffer to find space to do these things. Because otherwise you'll just sit and go, what could have been when you should have been, you know, what should have been. So it's, you know, if you want to be creative, then you'll find time for it, you know, be it as small or as big as it can be. I can't sit and do like very elaborate videos. I can't sit and write elaborate scripts, but I can sit and have like this, for example, you know, a good kind of hour and a half or so of just speaking bullshit with a cracking chap on the internet, you know. So
that's good way. No, it's just no, you're right, because like I think there's another excuse everybody says, oh, I don't have time. So if you love it, you will make time for it. You know,
that's it exactly. You know, if you love a thing, you'll find time. You know.
You still all right for a wee while, or you
Yeah, man. Carry on to it now. It's now. Yeah, we're good. Fire
It's
away.
only because I forgot to record for that 20 minutes.
No, keep going, because when I leave you, what I'm going to do is, again, when it comes to that kind of like butterfly brain looking for projects, I bought this old motorbike, right? This old BMW touring kind of motorbike, and I got it for a steal, or I thought I got it for a steal, and bought it for like well under the value. Realized that everything was broken, so I've had to pull it all apart and fit all new bits, and then got it running, and then it died again. Had to pull it all apart again, rebuild. Got it running, died again. So it's currently now back at the running stage. But I've now got to fit all the Snickers back on again, all the plastics and all the bits and bobs, So when I leave you today, if the weather holds, I'm going to go outside, pull the bike out, and put his pants back on and his bra back on. And then hopefully it'll be good for MOT. So what's going to happen? But again, like when you said about being creative there, this goes back, sorry to go back again to this point, but I've started recording videos of this kind of rebuild of the bike and the problems it's had and stuff. And I've been releasing them on my YouTube channel, just like it's like maybe like a 20 minutes here and there of like, oh, this thing's broken, that thing's broken, and this thing doesn't work. And they're doing quite well again, because it's just a case of me with my phone and a holder in my chest, filming what I'm doing and just speaking like I'm speaking now, just yapping away about things and just trying to be natural and chat to folk and like say, what do you think of this? And it's just, again, it's a way of being kind of expressive and creative and, doing things like that. Eventually, when the bike runs, I'm going to strap my bloody camera to my helmet and go away and insult people on the roads, So that's the plan there. But yeah, that's it. It's just finding time or finding a slot where you can be creative and do these things. So yeah, so that's been my afternoon, is basically rebuilding this bike.
But even you doing that, I was a couple of times I was going to do sort of the same thing. Like, all right, I'm going to film this picture and I'm going to draw, and then I'm going to stop. And I was like, I just want to sit and draw a picture. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
Because then that's more work. I just want to be focused on what I'm doing, and then I never do it because I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, so hat off for you doing that, because it's like, to me, I just find that too much work. Definitely, if you got a project and then I tried to do like what is it? I was making a short film and I was trying to edit it behind the scenes. I said, oh no, that's too much work.
That's a lot of work there, exactly. Geez, so it is. I mean, it can be a lot of work, and I mean, luckily with editing, because like for example, with the podcast, I don't edit much at all anymore. I used to before. I used to edit things down to I spend hours cutting out all the breathing noises and cutting out all the kind of ahs and ums and blah blah blah. But now it's like, fuck it, it's part of the natural chat, and it works out quite well. It's just like, I'll cut out little bits here and there, like if we say things that are maybe a bit too, risque or a bit too rude or, a bit too kind of like, don't mention that shit. You cut them out, but it takes like, I can record a podcast now with the guys, like the miscreants, take that home, have it online within like an hour. Just it's a way it's gone, So it's not the worst thing. I think the more you do it, the more you can streamline your kind of editing process, and the quicker it gets. Even with making videos, it's a bit of a quicker thing. I can sit while the kids watching TV and do it on my phone if need be, and edit it all together. So it's not the hardest thing in the world to do.
Go back to like how I first heard about you. It was what is it? It was through wrestling. You're going to like Caithness Wrestling. I think got in touch with you to be their what is it?
Like a commentator, if you will, or like a play-by-play. Yeah,
I thought that would have been amazing. Because I would have made Caithness Wrestling like again sort of a hub of being like, we're Caithness and we're not like Glasgow or Edinburgh, right?
So they got in touch about that, and myself and Lurch wanted to get together and do the commentary. So they sent me the video. Can you book commentary over this? And Lurch, and we tried a few times, but it was just an absolute stramash, because both of us have got limited knowledge of a lot of the names of the moves. So you felt bad. Like, I didn't want to let the guys down by saying, oh, look at this wonderful suplex into a back flip flop humdinger smash. But I thought that could be funny. It's like your commentators don't normally know the names of the moves, But I thought, well, I don't want to, so I wasn't sure how it would go down. I think we recorded like 3 or 4 times, and each time it was like, we can't send that because they'll think we're fucking half-wits. But no, I mean, certainly I would have loved to give it a try, but I think it just didn't work out, or we didn't have the right kind of flow or style to do it. But I mean, certainly I'd be open to do it in the future, But it's like, oh well, I don't know if they need it anymore. But But yeah,
Well,
it would be good fun.
because like I end up making this like I made this video and then I went off and I had this idea of making this wrestling video at the time.
I saw it. It was fantastic.
Oh no, it was mint. It was really bad.
No, it was really good. It was really, really good. But the problem that we had was that I think Lurch and I both were very much color commentary. We're not very much play by play. I think if I had somebody who could do the play by play, then I'll just do the sweet Jeebus and all the kind of extravagant stuff, then that's fine, you know. But I think
because I was like, all right, I got this footage of it, and I had people who were going to come and do it with me, and then people backed out and all the rest of it. All right, and I was at my granny's. I put up a blue sheet, and it was like in the middle of the night, and you could tell I was a bit pissed as well. And sitting there speaking it, and then I was like, and then my mate went and said, "You can't put it. You sound better. You sound gurning." And then I said, you know what could be better if I go and contact yourself like that, and he could rip into me, and I could make it funny, you know. This would bring it down a wee bit. I thought this would be
yeah.
And then
I think that would probably work for something like that where it's not like a big budget event by any means. It's a small venture, but I think it would work if you had commentary that was different than the norm. You know, I think if you could do the play by play and do here he comes, everybody watch out, and here's my guy. Or you could do, look at the shape of this man here, geez, he looks like a house brick. You know, that kind of thing would be funnier. You know, I think. But you would need a good straight man to kind of bounce off, obviously, who could. Like, for example, say it was you and I, right, doing the commentary, and you were the straight man, I was the blonde. Says, oh, fucking hell, what shape that's house brick? And you could, you know, but then you'd have to lean heavily into I think it's inappropriate to refer to him as man as a house brick, you know, and that kind of, just to make that kind of argument back and forth, that kind of dispute between your two commentators would be a good kind of dynamic, I think, yeah, definitely.
Because that's like what is it, guys in the WWF back in the day in the Attitude Era. It was one was straight, and the other one was like really loud.
Exactly, you know. You look at classic JR with Jerry King Lawler, you know, and it was just Lawler was speaking about boobs and everything else well too, and JR's like, well, actually, you know, the wrestling's more important. No, it's not. It's the boobs that are more important. And then he'd go, you know, it was like that's what we want to see, you know. It's that far better. You know, yeah.
Good man, the Attitude Era is amazing, like that.
Oh,
but
amazing.
I end up redoing that video and I post it up. It means it's totally different now. It means it got onto Prime, like that. It means I was quite chuffed with that. But
that's amazing, yeah, bloody hell.
But and again, I was getting messages of our wrestlers raging and everything. And I knew I was going to get a shite.
Oh, for goodness sake! From wrestlers who you were showcasing in the video, or
or like this, like or this that sort of like again. I don't know if it was a jealousy thing. I was like, fuck it, you're in a video. Take it.
You're on Prime, for God's sake. Exactly. Yeah. Just take the win. You know, take the win. Take the exposure. You know. I think that as well too is. I think that's what we were. I know, right? If we were doing that kind of commentary, like you said, you know, you worry, are we going to offend the wrestlers with what we say? You know, it's like, because let's face it, everyone's got an ego, and you know, say a character's playing a character and we say the wrong thing, or we say like, look at the state of this guy's seed, it looks like a gay blend of a house, you know, then he's going to kick off with that, you know. It's like it's hard to work out.
It's one of the places what I would say, like I don't know if it's because it's half it's drama, half it's, you know, like I always say wrestling's like if boxing and theatre had a baby, you got wrestling. It's like
exactly. It's the best men's soap opera there is. Yeah.
But it's so toxic environment. Like definitely, like even like down south. But it's like I was too chilled out with that. And then I think like what was I going to say about that? I never took myself serious. I think that's what people like.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go to the 80s character, have a laugh. You know, I wasn't good, but
well, that's it exactly. And again, I think that's why it wouldn't work out with me and Lurch, for example, because we're both used to attacking each other and having digs at each other. We're used to that kind of level of humor, whereas others maybe aren't. So if you have a wrestler who's really worked hard to get where they are and to develop their skill sets and stuff, and they've got two guys sitting drunk going, oh, this boy here, he looks like he should be in Auschwitz, you know. Like, you couldn't get away with that, you know. It's like, oh, God. Like, oh, God. Like, he looks like a Nazi sympathizer, Jesus Christ. You know, they would flip their lids, you know, like, oh, well, you know, I'd get banned from Third Zone. I'm like, I can't do that. So.
No, it'd be funny, man. Like, you do powerlifting, don't you?
I did. So well, my wife does now more than anything else, and she's getting scary by the way as well too.
Yeah.
But no, I spent many years doing strongman. So I was in my kind of like 30s to 40s. I was doing strongman competing locally, nationally as well. But the problem was so I was doing like a van deadlift. So you got a big van and a frame, and you got to lift this thing up for reps. And I was one of the few guys competing in that sport who was clean. I wasn't taking drugs.
Right.
Whereas everybody else I was competing with were mainly on drugs. And as a clean competitor, you were never getting that same level as the guys who were willing to, to gear up. I did okay, but I was getting lots of like second places here and the occasional first place, but second place, it wasn't really doing the best. And at kind of point I was doing this van deadlift, and someone would ping in the back of my head. And turns out I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage. So there's a blood vessel between the membrane of the brain and the skull, and it burst. And I'd collapsed, had to go to hospital. And they said that if it had been like a millimeter more, it could have killed me. So that was my kind of first wake-up call, saying, well, maybe I'm getting a bit old for this, and I'm competing against guys that are, juicing up and the wrong a league above me, if you will. So I started winding it down a bit, focused more on powerlifting, did that for a number of years. Because I'm a big guy, I was in the heavier weight class. Mm-hmm. So I was getting quite good results because there wasn't very many guys competing in that class. So I was doing quite well results-wise. But again, age, bits falling apart. My knees all destroyed these days now as well too. My back was all destroyed, and had to kind of give it up as well too. So these days now it's basically just like going to the gym to try and maintain old man strength if you can, a little bit. My wife, however, though, a couple of years ago was like, you know what, I quite fancy going to the gym, and maybe you could show me a few things. So we went to the gym together, showed her a few things. She's like, oh, I quite fancy trying some of this powerlifting stuff. So she got into that as well too, found herself a trainer online who's fantastic, who lives kind of locally as well, which is handy. And she's now competing like 3 or 4 contests. She's doing really well. She's training all the time. She's getting scary. Like before I could throw her over her shoulder, now she's throw me over her shoulder. It's like, holy moly. But yeah, so I had a long career in kind of strength athletics, but as is the case, getting to be an old man now, still very handsome, of course, but just old and decrepit and falling apart, and everything aches these days, and my knees aching, my hands are aching, my arsehole's aching. Why does your arsehole ache? I mean, I don't know if it's a protein intake or what it is, but Jesus Christ. That's a problem as well too. I don't know if you've ever been much of a gym goer, but see, when you increase the protein intake, my wife learned this to her cost. I warned her, goes, look, you're going to have to bring in some more protein for your gym goals. I says, but be careful how much you take in, because if you take in too much, it comes back out again, and it comes back out again at speed. And she learned this lesson when about a month or so into her training. She went for a toilet stop, and it went off like a fucking shotgun. Like, oh my God, it's on the walls. Just like, it's in my hair. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's everywhere. It's a fine mist in the air. What the fuck? I can't see. Just blew up like a fucking grenade of jobbies. So yeah, be careful on the protein, guys.
No, I never thought about it. Most of my jobs has always been labouring, lifting, shifting, or all that. And you see people who do carbits, like hats off to them.
Jesus, yeah,
that's a backbreaker. I never thought carbits. Like it's times we used to lever carbits to different places, and it's like, how you can be arsed to carry out the stairs? You do it.
It's brutal. Like you see these gym bunnies who are like muscles upon muscles, and like it's all about flexing, and they're big guys, but they haven't got functional strength. You look at those guys who are built like a wire brush, who are carting, like you said, 2 or 3 carpets up a set of stairs every day, and they're strong. Those are the guys you really got to watch out for.
That's what I found funny. It was like, there's a couple of guys I know, and they're like built like a jockey's whip, and then they're like, they're really fucking strong. They got I don't know, farmer strength.
Yeah, farmer strength, functional strength, exactly. It's nuts.
It's mental.
No, see, I've got that kind of to use a phrase, retard strength.
I was going to use that, but I was like,
I'll say it. Retard strength, right? It's like, there's something broken inside me, but it makes me stronger. My wife, she's a big powerlifting fan now as well too. So I think she's got a contest. She had a contest there just shortly ago. She's got a new one coming up as well shortly too. So she's in the middle of the whole kind of focus and getting ready for that and training up as well too. So it's all about, our house is in Midna, protein shakes and protein. She loves protein bars because obviously they're fucking chocolate, so women love chocolate, greedy bastards. And, she's trying all these different kinds and styles and stuff to see what works for her. So, yeah, but she keeps saying, oh, but my protein bars, they keep going down really fast. I'm like, oh, I've got no idea why. I'm not a clue.
I go up and down like a yo-yo. I can put on weight quickly, but it's beer and I can knock it off. But in the same way, I never feel like I'd be. It was times I was like, oh, I'm really fit, but I still had like a muffin top or like, I could never get it totally, like slender, if you know what I mean. And
yep. I know them feels. Yeah, I'm the same boat as you, pal. Exactly. I'm built like in the film Ghost when Demi Moore's got that blob of clay and just molding it. I'm the mold. I'm the clay before it's been molded, right? Just a blob of fucking mess that's getting fingered by Demi Moore. I'd love to get fingered by Demi Moore. That'd be amazing. Oh, Jesus Christ. Huh? Can we take a 5-minute break? So go for a wee thought about that.
It's what you're speaking about, like lifting and shifting. Like I got super piles now. I fucking
super piles.
Super piles, man. And I think it's lifting wrong. It's just,
and they're the worst. And see, trying to apply the cream. And the worst, can I recommend when you are applying the cream for those arse scrapes, is make sure you've got a very durable bathroom door lock. Because there's nothing worse, right, when you're like legs akimbo trying to apply this lotion to your bum plums, and the door bursts open with a fucking 5-year-old going, "Daddy, I can't find my toothbrush! Ah! What are you doing?" Like, oh God Almighty, your legs with your lugs, your air soles winking at them like, ah, screaming. So yeah, make sure get a chair against the door, perhaps, or some kind of stick. But yeah, little bastards.
Here, that happened to me last year. Like, I was going on a night out. And I was at my mum's house, and I thought, my willy's fucking hairy. Like, means I thought I shaved it.
Okay, yeah.
No. My mum,
I see why, because you get that extra optical inch. Mm-hmm. You need that, pal. You need that. The optical inch. Yep.
Fucking caught here with my trousers at my ankles, shaving my bits, and I thought,
oh, nice.
We just never spoke about it. We just left it as that. It's like, well, now.
I know. So obviously, my co-host in the DHB, Lurch, as well too. Did you ever hear about his story about his pile that he had to deal with? He had a proper juicer coming out of the back end. A proper like a meaty number. And he's like, you know what? I could go to a doctor. And get probed and fingered and everything else. Or what I could do is get very, very drunk and deal with it myself. Right. So what he did was got very, very drunk, went to the bathroom with an industrial pair of nail clippers, right? Got himself legs akimbo, nail clippers, chopped his barbie off, and then passed out. And he woke up on the bathroom floor about an hour later, blood everywhere, just Edsel looking like a kicked in Ribena berry, just like absolute shambles. Bleed everywhere, like up the walls. How did it get up the walls? Just an absolute mess. But yep, just he went out cold. Boom. See you later. Good night. God bless. Amazing. Yep.
That's hardy, man.
I'll tell you one as well. To a pal of mine who used to be a bouncer in Aberdeen, and he enjoyed the pleasures of the flesh. He enjoyed a wee hand shandy when he got a chance. He wasn't a very pretty boy, So obviously his best girlfriend was his palm and his 5 sisters. That. So one arm like Popeye, the other one like a stick. But he was one night he went home and he was blazing drunk. He's like, you know what I'll do? I'll stick on TV. I'll stick on a bit of the old Freeview and I'll have a wee hand shandy. So he strips. Now he likes doing it, of course, fully naked. Get all the kit off, fully legs akimbo, legs, on the bed, big glass for the mirror, watching himself go crazy. But he also likes to wear, or seemingly used to like to wear, like an NFL helmet, like a New Orleans Saints helmet on, and then just sitting there lying there naked, chugging himself away. Yeah, it's fine. But this one night, he chose to sit in his living room chair, right? And he's watching TV on, Freeview's on. He's just sitting there jacking away. But he falls asleep, right? So he's now asleep, head in the chin, helmet on, cock in hand, legs akimbo, right? He wakes up in the morning and he looks to his side, and there's not only is there a box of freshly laundered washing, there's also a cold cup of tea and some biscuits. His mother had come in the morning with his washing, right? Deliver it. Found him lying in the chair, cock in hand, helmet on, TV, all fuzzy picture. Made him a cup of tea and a biscuits in case he woke up kind of soon. Set his washing down beside his chair and then left.
Oh no!
For-
How can you even go down the stairs after that?
How do you address that to your exactly? How do you go down? Oh, hello, mum. Good morning. You know, how do you address that one? You know, like, oh, God's sake, brilliant.
I mean, my uncle, he's like a few years older than me, but he was saying when he was younger, he was steaming drunk. He took his lassie back home to his house, and because he was drunk, it was taking forever to come, and he was just going at it, and you could hear it, and then his mom came in the door and said, John, be quiet. And he said, sorry. You know, and he's keep going, but he's snoring.
Yep.
I couldn't look my mom in the face for like 2 days after that. Like, once you could hear me like this going at it.
I have an uncle. Speaking about uncle stories, I'll give you one here too as well. I've got an uncle who, when I was a kid, lived at home with his mother, right? Mm-hmm. And what he would do is he'd wait till everyone went to bed. He'd sneak downstairs to the living room where the VCR player was, you know, the only VCR in the house, pulled out his special interest video, right? Stuck it in, and then he'd watch whatever he was watching, you see, you know, boobs, basically. He loved a bit of boobs. But this one night, though, he put the tape in, or the tape wouldn't go in, sorry, it was jammed inside this thing. He's already naked, ready for the main event, right? He's down to the kicks, and he's got his hand, it's like, why is the tape not going into the VCR? Turns out that my little brother had jammed a toy car into the VCR, so the tape wouldn't load. So my uncle's like, you know what I'll do? I'll just hand in and I'll dig this car out, right? Not thinking to unplug the thing at the back, you know. It's like, I'll get this thing out, right? So not only does his hand go in and the little flap that goes up the way comes down and jams his fingers into the thing, but he touches something in there electrical. Bang! Just like, boom, he's out cold. There's smoke coming to the VCR. He's lying there with an erection. Trapped on the floor. His mother comes through. Oh my God, what's happening? What's going on? Had to phone the fire service, right? Because he's still connected to this VCR to a live power supply. Had to phone the fire service to come out to free him from the VCR. Of course, got a pair of pants on him though, you know, keep his dignity clean. But that's the worst time to get caught in a wank, electrocuted and jammed in the VCR, you know, Lord.
The Adventures of Bucktooth Magatoot, Episode 1, The Job Seeker.
If ye were looking for a face model to advertise a new batch of fancy photo frames in a Backway Pound shoppy, by hell ye wouldn't be asking Bucktooth Magatoot. Cursed with breath more foul than a bottom of a peat digger's boot, eyes that regularly disagreed about which direction they should be pointing, and teeth like a row of condemned hooses from a arse end to a glebe, but it was fair to say that Bucktooth had a face that could stop a clock. And today, however, he had to try and look his very best, as his mother had sorted him out with an interview for a job, in he hopes it would get him off his fat arse and make him enough money to pay back the fine he got from the courts on the previous Thursday. Get yourself dressed now, Bucktooth, before I come up that stairs and knock you 7 shades of shite at you, screamed Bucktooth's mother, Mary Magatoot. A formidable beast of a woman who had a day off from her job at the auction mart wrestling angry bulls till they groaned so they could be branded. Interview. After a short wait, a lassie soon came out with a clipboard and called his name, and straight away Bucktooth recognised her as Tina Bowley, a middle-aged single mother of 6 bairns who were all called Davy. Tina didn't seem to recognise him. Bucktooth followed her into a wee office and sat down at the desk opposite her. Well, Mr. Magatoot, said Tina, thank you for your application to join us here at the rubbish recycling factory, but there's a few things about your CV I'd like to discuss with you if that's okay. Bucktooth jumped to his chair faster than a tank hearing a siren. Tina looked shocked. What in the hell were you demanding the audience be refunded for? Well, said Bucktooth, they played that film Never-Ending Story, and I'll tell you this, the damn thing only lasted for 1 hour and 42 minutes. Well, Tina hadn't been so shocked since that time she heard someone sing Sex Bomb and Tune during karaoke night at a camps in Wick. Bucktooth, said Tina Bowley, standing up at her chair and opening the door, there's just no chance at all if you get a job here. You're as much use as tits on fish. Now sling your hook out of here right now, you no good rotten manky bastard. Bucktooth got to his feet and made for a door, but before leaving he turned to Tina, and with every bicht of venom he could muster, he said, "Dinna you think you're better than me, Bowley? That hanging thing atween your legs has seen more traffic than the Georgemas Junction, and fired out more bairns than a circus car pumps out clowns. Anyway, you've always had it in for me after I baldy hips clean off you over a Pac-Man machine at the back with Beak's shop back in 1988, then never paid for your chips afterwards. You can take his job and ram it right where the good Lord split you midden." Bucktooth slammed the door and made his way till he come faster than a thirst seagull on dropped chips. Coming soon, the next episode of Bucktooth Mackatoo!
No.
Dear me.
I mean, like we had this Holy Grail tape. What went everywhere. It was like this tape had like 4 hours or 3 hours of just
Midget porn. Midget clown porn.
Basically, you name me porn. It was probably like circus porn. It was just like
Yep.
big. It went everywhere. It went round the school for ages, and I was like, "When am I getting this tape?"
Yeah. You have to book it.
It was like that was the good old days, when you actually had to go and find porn. No, now.
We had a system where, like, if anyone had a tape, what we would do is, like, my mum back then used to work shifts, so there was times I was home alone. If I was home alone, the minute she was at the door, "Right, boys, get in here now," they would take around the tape to my house. We'd have a second VCR plugged into the first VCR to record the first tape on the second tape, you see. And we were pumping these things out like confetti, right? But you had to obviously sit and watch the whole film to record on the next tape. So that's like a 2.5 hour video VCR. You'd have, so you would have like blocks of like 8 hours of recording fucking porn on your mum's TV. And then pass it around like to people. People are buying off you. "I'll give you £10 for a porn. No problem at all, pal. Here you go." Grainy as hell, that whole VCR to VCR loss of image, like, oh, it's amazing, man. Yeah.
It's mental, because like people are not going to get, like, I mind like Eurotrash was such a big thing when I was younger, but it's like because it was no hardcore porn. Like I only came in like 2000s, sort of mid 2000s.
If anyone tells me they haven't thrashed themselves raw to an episode of Eurotrash, I will call them a liar.
I know.
Like, who hasn't been lying there, just throwing milk?
It was this that, or like it was channel 5, but then you had a 10-minute free view.
Yeah. A babe station.
But I would say we had like a way how to get porn off a shelf. My plan was me and my mate goes in, he trips up, he falls over. It means the guy looks over to see if he's all right. I'll grab it, I put it into what you call it?
Beano.
Sunday, no, not a Sunday Sport, like one of the newspapers. And I buy a newspaper, and then I walk out. Right,
genius.
I went to do it. He falls over. A guy just looks at him, and then I just walk away because I shot at it.
A genius plan. The best thing that probably happened to the Caithness porn industry back in the day was the Navcom base, because all these Americans come over and they had VHS after VHS full of filth. That's probably what fed the kind of Caithness market for long enough. What's all these copied NTSC tapes? Like, God's sake.
No,
Sean, how bad is this? We spent a good portion of your podcast speaking about masturbation. This is wonderful. This is exactly why I look forward to it.
Like, I was going to speak about your book and your talents, but like, if that's the one you want to speak about.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about talents, then we've got one right there.
What was I going to say? Means are you still in the whiskey, like, doing that, or is that you?
Well, I was working at the distillery for 6 years, but recently there's been so the whiskey industry as a whole is kind of like going into a downturn. Scottish whiskey since COVID has been on the downward spiral. It goes to this kind of like 7-year cycle, so they go up and down, but currently they're in a bit of a longer down because of the whole COVID and the effects of that as well too. So a lot of the companies out there have overproduced and undersold. So it means that right now in Scotland, especially when it comes to storage of whiskey, there's not a lot of space. Like there's warehouses are jam packed everywhere with stuff needing to age and to get sold on. You see, so the company I work for are having to kind of either slow down production in certain sites or scale back production quite heavily. Sadly, the site I work at is scaling back from a 7-day operation to a 5-day operation. So it means that they're having to cut the workforce by like 30%. And I'm one of the ones getting cut, sadly. So it means that, you know, at the end of this month, which is not very far away, I'm going to be back on the job market again. I am leaving though with quite a, you know, a very helpful compensation package. If things pick back up again, which they will do eventually, and welcome back, you know, kind of thing. So it's not, I'm not leaving in bad terms by any means, and I'm leaving with a healthy enough package that I can find work elsewhere. So it's not the worst. But yeah, so that's the kind of where it stands. I'm still obviously with the fire service, so I'm still working with that. But my time at the whiskey industry has come into a close. So
you would never go back to bouncing, is that?
I mean, I think I'm too old and grumpy now for the bouncing. I get cold a bit quicker now. You know, I'm not quite as. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's always the option there, but the problem is it's not really the best paying job by any means. You know, the distillery job was a good one, you know, but I'm older now. I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got kids to support, family support, you know, so you kind of need a bit more of a kind of regular and reliable income than the bouncing. The bouncing was fine, but the problem was, you know, you might get injured, you know, you might get hurt and be off work for a week, 2 weeks, for example, you know, and then the problem is like, how do you pay your bills, you know? So it's
you're night owl as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm looking elsewhere, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm hopeful that things will work out. So
because there's a picture, there's a picture of you I seen on Facebook the other week, and it was you rolling a barrel, and I thought, that's a really good photo. But
it came out really well, yeah.
You probably went and said, "Oh, that's me getting paid off," and I just liked it. Yeah. I was like, I never even read that. You know,
that's fine.
I fucked that. I done that a couple of times on Facebook. It's like I see such and such, like I don't know, like Kenny such and such, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't seen him in ages, and I like it, and he's away, and you're like, oh shit. You know,
yeah, I know, right? I did that recently with a friend of mine who posted a picture of a family member who passed away, and it was a really nice picture. I'm like, oh, cool picture, like, and I was like, oh, they've passed away. Oh shit, I just like that over. No. Oh dear. Yep. And I'll gather together more stories in my Caithness times up there as well too for the next one if I get to it again.
It's a shame I never pressed record. It's just when you came back and we started yapping, and I was like 20 minutes in and went, oh no.
I know, right? How cracking was that?
I'm glad I at least seen that out, because it would have been a dull one. It came off.
Exactly. That was fine, but we didn't miss much. You know, it's fine. It's fine. We'll be good.
Thanks, Scott. It was a good laugh, like that.
Yep. Really enjoyed it, guys. And thank you all for watching as well too. And obviously, if you want to check out my book, you can find me at Scott Taylor. ScottTaylor.uk. That's my website. On there's links to all the bits and bobs, you know. So ScottTaylor.uk. You'll find me on there. So thank you very much.